Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar about cost optimization. Today's agenda is starting from introducing different strategies for cost optimization. After that, we will present ways to identify non-value adding product features. The third part of the webinar walks through the process of cost optimization. At the end of the webinar, there will be an opportunity to ask questions from our experts, Reijo Kalenius from Scanfil and Jonne Elimä from Etteplan. My name is Jouni Riuttanen and I'm the host of this webinar. Briefly about the companies behind the webinar. Scanfil is an international contract manufacturer and system supplier for the electronics industry with over 40 years of experience in demanding contract manufacturing. Scanfil provides its customers with an extensive array of services ranging from product design to product manufacturing, material procurement and logistics solutions. Etteplan provides solutions for industrial equipment and plant engineering, software and embedded solutions, and technical documentation solutions to the world's leading companies in the manufacturing industry. Etteplan services are geared to improve the competitiveness of their customers' products, services, and engineering processes throughout the product lifecycle. Let's move forward with the first part of the webinar, and let me hand over to Reijo Kalenius from Scanfil. Reijo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jouni. Yeah, let's start by discussing why use design services for cost optimization. This slide that I'm presenting is very old, but the reason is that it sums up the idea in a very good way. You can see that the traditional way of thinking about the life cycle spend shows that, of course, most of the cost is in materials, labor costs, overheads, and that is, of course, typically the target also for cost optimization. You try to find better ways to source the material, try to increase reduce the amount of labor that is required for building the product, and maybe find the labor also at a lower cost. But if you think about the shadows, it's clear that most of the product cost is defined already at the designer's table, so to say, and studies have shown that over 70% of the cost is actually decided already by the development team. And although it's important to find savings in both material and labor costs, the biggest impact by far can come from thinking about the design and improving the construction. If we think about the product lifecycle, the products that we are, both Scanfil and Etteplan, typically working with are business-to-business products, and 10 years life cycle is not a stranger to us. Typically, that is the case. We have seen products that go up to 15, even 20 years. And from that perspective, of course, things happen during a decade or 2 decades. Both the market changes, but of course also the technology advances significantly. In the beginning, when you are developing the product and introducing it to production and to the market, of course the focus is on innovation and added value. You want to have all the latest technology and bring as much value to the end customer as possible. Then normally you think about future proofing also. You think what kind of features might be needed in the future during this 10 years life cycle. And one critical item is of course time to market or time to profit, and that sometimes forces you to take decisions that in the end are not optimal, but they are accepted at the time because the time to get profit and to get sales is critical. And of course, DFX is something that we love to talk about since we are a manufacturing services company. Then how these decisions that have been taken during the development and introduction, how are they seen when you do a cost reduction and workshop and look at the product, think what could be done when 10 years have passed. Of course, there are possibilities for new ideas. The technology has advanced. You maybe have manufacturing technologies that are more cost competitive and different than was the case when the design was being made. Then you want to focus on optimizing the customer value. You maybe have added features that are not needed anymore by some customer groups or so on. And yeah, of course, optimized design solution. There may be new possibilities that have come up as well. And typically, at the same time as you are looking at cost, you are also looking at the life cycle and want to make sure that if you get some savings, you can still keep the product going for some time after you have reached payback for your cost reduction investment. And why we are talking about this with Etteplan is, of course, that we have entered a strategic partnership with them when it comes to design services, and together we feel that we have a strong offer to offer these kind of life cycle services as a turnkey project. And our view when we are talking to our customers from the EMS side, they are of course mostly purchasing and sourcing people. Sometimes the OEMs have difficulty finding the resources for such tasks within their own companies, because the development people obviously is needed to develop the new products and bring them to the market. And sometimes it is tricky to find resources to do these kind of projects, and we see it as a good benefit to our customer base that we can offer basically a turnkey project to implement the agreed cost reduction activities. And of course, the target is to increase the margin and maintain that increased margin over time, and that enables the extended life cycle for your product. Some examples to put our money where our mouth is. We have done this in the past since several years. The first on the top left is a mechanical component. It was made with machined components that were welded together, and everybody knows machining and welding. They are more or less curse words when you speak about cost. And of course, sheet metal is nowadays a lot more cost conscious choice. Here we made a part that was bent from a single sheet metal piece, where the original design was, like I said, welded together from several machine components. Optimized customer value. Well, you can see it in the picture. It's basically the same product offering the exact same features to the end user, but the look and feel is of course much better and more modern, even though this is also some years old. But within the product, we had found good ways to implement cost savings, and that enabled us to make it look better and improve also the usability. There are some aspects that make the use of the device much more convenient to the end user. Then when we spoke about these reservations that sometimes are needed, that is in this optimized design solutions picture, we had a product that had been prepared from the hardware side to Ethernet connectivity. We had at that time a separate IC chip to manage the communication and also, of course, the connector. But the software for this was never implemented, so the components were basically throughout the years just an extra cost. And this is, of course, an easy cost saving. In the end, you just at some point in time have to realize that this will never happen, and the Ethernet software will never be implemented. And of course, extended life cycle, like I said, is also important. Here's an example where we changed some components on the PCBA from end-of-life components to new ones that secured the life cycle for some time, and at the same time we were able to change the process also from manual mounting to SMT, which is of course also significantly cheaper. But typically what we see as kind of archetypes of non-value adding features are, like I said, these kind of reservations that have been designed into the product, and then you just need to find the right time to take them out and thus reduce the cost. And then we have this category nice to haves. These are secondary features that do not provide the primary function of the product. Funny example was this pen holder that we had on a molded part in an industrial analyzers, and when we asked the product manager if it's okay to remove that because it caused a lot of problems and scrapped parts, which of course somebody has to pay for in the end. When we asked the customer about it, the product manager wasn't even aware that there was such a pen holder. So this is also a very easy way to take out cost from the design point of view. And then third category that we have recognized is these features that target a specific user group. So it's not aimed for all the users. We had, for example, on a tabletop device that was AC powered with an external power supply, but we had integrated batteries inside the machine meant for mobile usage, although that was probably 1 or 2% of all the users. So then, of course, you can think, is it good that all the entire customer base has to pay for this option, or could you somehow take it out from the base product and maybe have it as an external module or something similar? Then, of course, the tricky part is how to identify the non-value adding features. If 10 years or even 5 years has passed, it's likely that the original design team and the people who have been a part of that is not in play anymore, and you have to look at it with fresh eyes, which of course can be good as well. There are formal tools, of course, for making a diagram of all the features that are built into the product, but practically we have felt that the bang for bucks for such an activity just is not there. It's much more cost efficient to run a workshop and brainstorm maybe half a day or day with a cross-functional team and go through the product and what does it do, what are the features that are visible, and then generate ideas and estimate the savings for taking out those products. Of course, at the same time, as we are talking about savings, we have to also evaluate the cost of implementing the savings and calculate when does our customer get his money back. That was my part. Now I hand over to Yana. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, Reijo, and pleasure meeting you all online here today. My name is Yana. I work as a sales manager in Etteplan, based in Espoo, Finland, and I'm here to talk you through the cost reduction process itself. So the first step would be, usually in cases like this, is to set up a target for this project. Sort of what do you want to achieve? What's the end outcome? Is it lowered cost, which is usually the case, but we'll give you a few tools or a few levels that we can sort of strive to, whether depending on the optimization level, is it minor or is it major? But we'll go through those in a minute. Then we'll move on and actually collect all the available data that you have of the device that's currently in production. That's bill of materials, it's any source files, drawings that you have, any documentation that could be valuable for a redesign of a device or a modification of a device. Of course, annual volumes is also critical when making decisions on components and what their possible volume prices could be. Then we'll move on and set up cross-functional teams with our experts from both, of course, Etteplan and Scanfil, as well as the customer if you want, or if you have the capability to be present in those at the moment. And the work starts after this by going into cost reduction workshops. Here are just a few ideas of what the workshops could be, what the titles or what the subjects could be. But of course, we need to interview operators and customer stakeholders in order for us to know what the key product features are at the moment. What's a feature that simply cannot be changed or cannot be removed for a future or in a future product? And this is, of course, Reijo's example of the Ethernet-based or Ethernet part reservation that was in one of the products. This is something that has been identified that yes, this is not a key product feature and we can possibly drop it out. Brainstorming is always a good idea to do, especially with people from or with different backgrounds, so that we get something else than the basic engineer's idea of a product and how it's working. So the customer is, of course, here a key person to be participating, so that we can get something, maybe some new features that no one has thought about before. Then we'll have to do a functional analysis of the existing device. By this, of course, one way to look at this is to see that how does the device work? How is it intended to work? But there could be some differences in the original design that was done maybe, let's say, 7 years ago. Then we'll look at those design files and think that, hey, there is maybe an undocumented feature, or then some features that work a bit differently than they were originally designed to do. So we need to know for a fact that this device works in a specific way today, and we want to move forward with these features. Then we'll walk through review the features and put a price for those, so that we have a cost versus value analysis, so that we can make logical business decisions based on these data or this data that we have available. Then we'll give some time for our engineers to think about this, what has been said before and what data has been gathered. Then we'll present you the results per change proposal. And here we have 3 different levels of changes that will be implemented, and the next slide will be about that. But some of these sort of reports will be based on the saving potential. How much would you save if you do this? Pretty simple. We put a price on development and non-recurring engineering costs to know how much this will truly cost or how long this will take in order for us to implement these changes that we've come up with. Based on these, we can calculate the payback time. How long will you have to continue production in order to get your money back from this investment that you make? And sort of what's the expected lifespan of the product that's been put to market? Risk assessments will always be made as well. How does the future look like? Is there something that we need to take into consideration? Has maybe temperature ranges for some products, have they changed here over the process? Hopefully not, but always a good thing to look through those just to make sure that everything is as expected. And then if these brainstorming sessions, if the outcome is new features or maybe some modules have new functionalities, you can, for instance, add Bluetooth through a component change, just some of the ideas. We again put a price, cost versus value. Is this logical for you as a customer to do in order to reach a wider audience or whatever is the case in these? Then after we have all the data presented, we'll review those together with you and help you make the decision to know that, yes, these are the changes that we will make. And after this, it's almost a done deal, just some engineer work needs to happen after that. So we decide whether we do a completely new development project or will we make smaller iterations to the existing design through engineering changes. Then we'll have the 3 different levels of changes, and the most basic level 1, is just some component optimizations. This is the shortest time to market with these. We make very minor changes. It could be one end-of-life component that's just swapped out, and we need to test and validate it and update documentation. And after that, it's sourcing and logistics that handles the rest. Usually in these cases, we're talking about a few months maybe of development time tops, and the savings in the end product or material costs could be a few percent, or in that range at least. Then the second level is a bit wider. It's minor hardware changes. What we mean by this is that we'll also touch the layout, or usually we also have to touch the layout of the PCB. It could be some bigger hardware blocks that are disabled or redone, but still, it's the look and feel of the device is likely the same. But due to these layout changes, we'll have to make, or hardware component and layout changes, we most probably also have to make sure that it's working as before and push it through more testing. So the time to develop this and test and validate it, it's a bit longer. But then again, savings could be up to 10% in these cases. And then the third one is usually a complete redesign. And this is a new product development project with all the bells and whistles. But we have, of course, the existing product data. We have the knowledge from the market, what is expected at the moment. So we can make a top-notch device through these. And of course, when we make a new product, we have to get the accredited testing, for instance, done to it for CE markings. The production tester most probably needs to be redone, but it's a complete redesign project. And in these cases, again, the cost reduction or the estimate of how much lower the cost of the device would be is in the range of 30 to 40%. But then again, the development time is longer with this. So 3 different levels of cost optimization that we can easily gather and present you as to what is the most logical to do in a situation that you have at hand today.
So thank you, Reijo, and thank you, Jonne. We have now some time for questions from the audience, if any.
We have a question, Joni, from the audience. What kind of manufacturing Scanfil has in Finland?
I think this question then goes to Reijo.
Yeah, Scanfil has a factory in Sievi, south from Oulu, about 5-6 hour drive from Helsinki. And what we do there is sheet metal mechanics and highly integrated products, so final assembly type of operation. Then of course we have internal supporting factories around Europe that supply the Sievi factory with PCBAs, cables, so on and so forth.
And following question, no electronics assembly? Do you have it?
We do not have PCBA manufacturing in Sievi. We have electronics manufacturing in Pärnu, Estonia. We have it in Sieradz, Poland, and of course also Sweden, China, Germany.
Thank you, Reijo.
And then we have a question from Johan Halling. Would you please give your view on how compliance issues like FDA will influence the process and your competence in the area?
Jonne, do you want to take that, or should I?
Yeah, I can take that one. Thank you, Johan. Compliance in general, that's always in projects like these, we need to take that into question, and we have compliance consultants that are working in the teams to ensure that if we make any component changes or module changes, for instance, we have an idea as to how that will affect certifications and testing.
Yeah, I would also comment that it depends heavily on the scope of the project and what you are planning to do. Of course, we have cases where using the existing documentation from years back is just not an option anymore, and then you have to basically, or you get to basically redo the documentation more or less from scratch and make sure that everything is according to the current relevant standards. But yeah, we have had cases where we have done that from rewriting the specifications all the way up to complete verification and validation. I hope that answers the question.
We don't have any more questions in the panel at the moment.
Good. Thank you for all the attendees for your interest, and special thanks to Reijo and Jonne for sharing the insights about optimizing the cost structure of a product. Thank you.